Welcome to the Grace for the Unlovable podcast, where you can share your story judgment-free. We are here to guide you down the road to redemption and restoration. Remember, healing comes when secrets are shared in safe spaces. Now, here are your hosts, Anthony and Melissa.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Grace for the Unlovable podcast. I am your host, Anthony.
Hello, I'm your co-host, Melissa.
We are so glad that you have taken the time out of your evening to join us, and happy belated Father's Day. We are actually recording this on Father's Day because that's the only time we have. But happy Father's Day to everybody listening. Before we get to tonight's podcast, let's just go over a couple of quick announcements. We just want to remind you that it is always helpful to help the podcast grow if you would like and subscribe, hit the notification bells, buttons, wherever you're listening. Just helps you to get reminders that the podcast new episode is out, as well as it helps us grow. We try to grow this organically because it's such a unique type of podcast where it is very intimate. And so we wanted to grow intimately through word of mouth and kind of natural. Yes. Right? Also want to remind you, if you don't mind, check us out on the social medias. You could find those in the show notes, but definitely just look for Grace for the Unlovable. You can see the logo there. It's pretty much easy to find. Before we get to tonight's episode, let's hit you with a quick disclaimer. Although I practiced as a licensed therapist and an ordained minister, this podcast is not a substitute for clinical advice. This is not therapy. This podcast is for prayer and emotional support only. If you feel like you're going to harm yourself or others, please call 911 or reach out by text or phone to 988. This podcast is anonymous for a reason. We're not here to judge you or incriminate you. Please keep the names of anybody you've harmed out of your story. Oh, and if you're not remorseful, you're not ready for this podcast. Just reach out to us at a different time when you're ready to make some changes. Now, let's get ready for this episode of the Grace for the Unlovable podcast. Now, what I wanted to do to start out is just kind of give maybe a little opinion, education, I don't know what we'd call it, on the concept of secrets, right? Because our kind of catchphrase is healing comes when secrets are shared in safe spaces. And we absolutely believe that. Now, why are secrets such a powerful entity? And I think I'm going to say some things that seem obvious, but maybe don't pop in our heads right away, right? What secrets do is they put us in a false sense of reality. Let me say that again. Secrets put us in a state of a false reality because we are living as if everything is okay, but inside of us, it's really not. It may actually be going just fine on the outside, but something is going on. In therapy, there's a concept called pretend normal. And that is something that can be very dangerous. Pretend normal is exactly what it sounds like. You're just living life pretending everything is normal. And when you live in a state of pretend normal, you start to build up in terms of how am I going to relieve my actual reality, not my pretend reality, right? And so people can act out in a multitude of ways. Drugs and alcohol, sex, so many things that can lead us down a path of trouble, whether that be emotional trouble, relational trouble, or even legal trouble, right? So we don't want to live in pretend normal. Now, let's balance that with the other side of our reality. The other side of the equation is the shame of people knowing the truth about us. And if we're honest, we have to have some semblance of balance because we can't just tell everybody everything about us, right? I don't know, Melissa, have you ever known somebody who like overly shares? Like they
Oh,
tell you way too much about themselves, especially way too quickly?
yes.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable,
It's
right?
very uncomfortable, very scary.
So I sit on airplanes a lot, and from time to time anyway, and you get that person that'll sit next to you and ask, what do you do? And I get definitely one or the other. Either people tell me everything about them, or they just put their earbuds in and don't talk to me at all. But the ones that talk, it's usually like, especially the therapist part of me, right? People will say, well, I know my sister or a friend of mine wants to know about this. What do you think? And they're really talking about themselves, right?
Yeah.
But then I can think of one lady that literally for 2.5 hours told me so much detail about her, I would call it her sin life, because, you're a minister and a therapist. Well, let me run this by you. And I mean, talk to my ear off. And I heard things, and the people around us heard things. It's not like you're in a booth, right?
Right.
And I mean, to the point where people were making eye contact with each other, but she was oblivious. And so we can't be that person, right? It's socially weird. So where does a secret kind of become a problem? And I think, it's easy to say we all have secrets, but then the opposite is when the secret's driving you crazy inside. But could it be that there are some things that are meant to be secrets, and then some things that need to be said? And where do we find that balance? We talk a lot about religious people. Religious people are always going to say, just go confess it right away. But as we've learned in the last couple of weeks, sometimes you confessing something to somebody zillion years later may actually cause them more harm. So you're not doing the godly thing of just confessing your sin to them if it's going to make it worse. Now, if it's a balance of, well, it may be bad to tell them now, but if they find out a different way, then that could devastate them or something like that. But there are many instances where it's not as black and white. And then there are also instances where you're keeping a secret and it's not really that big of a deal. But that would be where we would say it's more of a spiritual battle going on inside you, where maybe if you believe in this, a demon is trying to get you to live in the shame and the guilt of something that maybe somebody doesn't even remember you doing or doesn't care, right?
Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean that that's what we're going to talk about today. I think today's is another kind of unique story. But what I wanted to just get across is secrets are a very powerful entity, and they are not as black and white as people think they are, right? Now, people will say honesty is the best policy. Well, true. So maybe you should have told the secret 25 years ago, but you didn't. And so now is the best option to keep the secret, share it with somebody else besides the person so you can be freed from it and not live in the pretend normal or not live in the agony or the shame or whatever it is. But at the same token, not causing more damage to relationships that, is unnecessary. Now, people challenge me biblically on that all the time, and not really in the mood to get into that too much. Well, the Bible says, well, the Bible will say this in one sentence and the Bible will say this. There's a lot of things in context, but there's a lot of things that we read into what we want to. So people don't believe me. Jesus told his people to keep secrets.
Sometimes secrets keeps things together.
Well, it could, unless Melissa is always going to err on the side of keeping the secret. I don't know if you guys have caught that. She's always like, let's just pretend this didn't happen. But Jesus,
Pretend normal. I did that for so long of my life.
It becomes kind of natural for some of us. Yeah. But don't forget, Jesus told his people to keep secrets for a time, right? He said, do not tell people this. Don't tell people who I am until it's time. And so what I always say kind of as a golden rule is you might have to keep the secret until it's time.
Yeah. I
Now,
agree.
of
That's
course,
good.
you can say, well, that was a different kind of secret. Oh, sure. And we're not trying to be black and white. What I'm trying to do is put this concept there for you to consider. As a golden rule, if the secret is eating you alive, you need to tell it to somebody and not keep it inside. But that doesn't mean you go confess it to the person or the people that you've wounded. If God tells you to do that, or if that's where the logic answer is, then yes, get a support person that can help you walk through it and be there with you in the aftermath. Don't just go run and do it with no support and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also times where getting it out and getting a clear head then may give you the opportunity to go to that person in a more productive way. Because I'm going to say this to the religious people. If you feel this person is keeping a secret and the right thing to do is get it out, getting it out is a selfish act. It's bothering me, so I'm going to say it. Have you even considered the other person, right? So it isn't black and white. It's a very difficult subject. And that's, as I said last week, and I'll say it a lot more times, that's the sin coming into the world. Adam and Eve kicking it in the garden in a place that was made to be an eternal bliss. And the snake comes along, the serpent comes along and says, God didn't really say that, did he? He just doesn't want you to eat from this tree because you'll know good and evil like he does. So they eat from this tree. The very next thing that happens is they're hiding from God. They're keeping the secret. We don't want to face him. We don't want to look at him. Where are you at, Adam? I'm hiding because we're naked. They didn't even know what naked. They were just naked the day before. Right? Now they understood, and that's when sin came into the world. So sin came in, next thing, secret, right? So what we do know is holding secrets in, not good. When you tell, who you tell, where you tell, that's the complexity. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Like, could you tell it to yourself? Like, could you just sit in the room and just really have, if it's a secret that's something that's a little over the top, like, could you just really sit in your room and just say it out loud? Does people say it out loud? Like, in the therapy sessions, like, do they really, I don't know if this is making sense or not. Like, do they really say it out loud and it makes them feel better just because they're talking to you?
It's possible.
Or could I just be in my room and finally say it out loud
Well,
in the words I could actually hear it?
I would say that I get what you're saying, but you've said it out loud in your own head 5,000 times. But maybe
Like speaking it.
maybe what I hear you saying is that when it's in your head, you kind of block it, and that one day you kind of just say it with your out loud voice. Could that help you? I can't dispute that it could. The challenge is that you already know. I think there's power in sharing the secret with someone else, which is why the Bible tells us to confess your sins to one another, which is what religious Christians like to use to get you to confess your sins to them because they're perfect and you're not. But there is value to that because in the original church, they all knew they were all scumbags. They all knew each other before Jesus. And when they met Jesus and they understood what he was about, they weren't afraid to confess their sins because pretty much they all knew that fisherman John over here was a clown, and they all knew that this lady, you think of Mary Magdalene, she had 7 demons. And everybody knew what she was doing, prostitutes, all that stuff. And then they're all sitting there talking to one another, breaking bread, having what the church is, what the church really means in Greek is the gathering. So it's not a building, it's the gathering. And so that's what the church originally was. Religion made buildings and that type of thing. So I think there's value to that. But is it better than nothing? Absolutely. if it feels like, okay, in my head, I can justify it, I get distracted. Let me just sit in my room, shut the door, and just say it out loud.
Yeah.
There is something called Gestalt therapy. I'm not a big Gestalt type of proponent guy. I see the value in it, but it's very weird to me. I'm kind of a more traditional guy, I guess. But like Gestalt therapy, for example, they will have you sit and talk to a chair. And so if you have a problem with your dad, they call it the empty chair. So you sit there, talk to a chair. So I think if you kind of in a Gestalt sort of way, just maybe sat yourself down, like you were looking yourself in the chair, I think it could be value. But if you just said like, once upon a time I robbed a bank, and then like, do I feel better? I don't know if it would.
Yeah.
But if you could sit down and stare at the empty chair and say, I'm going to tell one time I robbed a bank and I can't believe I did it. And it drives me crazy. And I feel like I betrayed my own morals and values. I still live in fear that what if one day I get caught? And if you could talk it through like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe if that kind of answers your question.
Just curious.
Gestalt therapy, by the way, the reason I don't like it, in case anybody's listening, is like they have some other weird things. Like if you're angry, get a tennis racket and beat a pillow with it. And I'm like, I don't want to teach somebody angry to get a tennis racket and start hitting things. Because one day they might have the tennis racket and the person they're mad at comes back home. Can you get what I'm saying? I'm not picking on it. I know some very good therapists who use it. And I even use a couple of the tools from it from time to time, including the empty chair, but definitely, something like that.
Okay. Fair enough.
But secrets in and of themselves obtain power because of the concept of shame. So I don't have to keep it a secret that I got a job where I make $200,000 a year. I tell everybody, right? Your friends, you go to your class reunion and you're like, what do you do? Well, I'm a CEO and I make $250,000. You're not ashamed of that. Shame comes in when you have that secret. I mean, real shame, detrimental shame. And so that's where the enemy, what we believe is the spiritual warfare from demons, will come in and speak in your head. If you don't believe in demons, that's okay. If you're listening, that's your voice in your head then. If that's what you want to believe, that you're beating yourself up. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, I had the opportunity to help a man who had committed a pretty serious crime. It was a murder. And he was writing a letter. It was some sort of a victim impact type letter. I had the privilege of helping a couple guys before with stuff like this. And in therapy, there are some therapies where people will write victim letters as part of their therapeutic interventions, right? So people in trouble with the law. We had a lot of clients like that. So, but this guy was writing a victim impact letter, and it's the best letter to date I have ever read. But what made it the best letter is he was so blunt and transparent that it made me uncomfortable in a good way, I guess, but in a very, I had never experienced it, unique way.
Right.
Because he was like, I am writing this letter to, Mrs. Smith. I killed your son, Joseph. I'm making these names up. I had no right to do that. I was selfish. And it wasn't like most people will write like, it's really hard for me to write this, but I know that you deserve this, blah, blah. He was just like, Miss Smith, I killed your son. It's nobody's fault but my own, ... And so, not that was a secret. Everybody knew he had done it, but it was the way that he emoted bluntly. And it wasn't about him. It was about the people he had wounded. So he had already done his internal work to be able to approach these people.
Wow, yeah.
That's why I caution people about secrets. That's why we started
yeah.
this podcast, is you may have to, we may have to be your trial run, because until you can get to that place, can you imagine if he was writing the letter selfishly? You know, Miss Smith, the therapists are making me write you this letter. I am the one that they blamed for your son's death, you know, even though it was gang related and he pulled a gun on me first, you know,
Right.
all you're doing is harming those people because they get this letter and you basically blamed their son. But when this guy wrote it, I was like, and I'm like, dude, I wouldn't make one correction. He was like, seriously, everybody says you're good with words. I said, it would be insulting to you and the victims of your crime for me to even touch that letter. Just give it over to your authorities and let them, because it was like a program where they turn it into the victims. And he got a bunch of good feedback. They were like, they wanted to meet him, and it was like a beautiful thing to be involved in. And so, but the shame of it, he had already worked on because his secret was outed. And I can't remember how long from when he committed the crime until when he got busted. But, you know, the longer from the time you did this thing to where you have to expose it or it gets exposed, that's more shame that you've lived with. Right. And so you can imagine what we're trying to do here is just get you a place, like I said, if you want to call it a trial run, right? So you've never told anybody, or you tried to tell people and they did the exact thing you were afraid of. Shame. I want you to think of this. I want you, let's just be hypothetical. Let's say you're a woman who comes from a Christian family, and we're not, I pick on religion a lot, but let's just say they're a good Christian family. They're good people, but they're very religious. Not to the point where they're browbeating people with the Bible, but everything is based on biblical principles. That's kind of a good thing in a way. But let's say you once upon a time went out and had a one-night stand with a guy. And your own morals and values think that's wrong. Some people won't think that's wrong at all, but you do. Your family might be the very last people. So can you imagine going to your dad? You're this 25-year-old lady, and you say, Dad, I just want to talk to you about this. Once upon a time, I had sex with this random man I met. Watching the look come over his face, right? And all the things you'd be afraid of could happen. You know, so like, you're like, should I tell him? Well, no. And so that actually makes the secret more powerful because the shame is more powerful. Well, could I go to my mom? Well, my mom is just going to be even worse because my dad might be initially shocked, but my mom's the one that's the most judgmental. So she's the one that's going to lecture me. And I can't go to my sister because she's perfect, even though your mom and your sister may have also had a one-night stand. The family kind of lives in that state where we just keep our stuff inside. We're Gen X. We didn't have feelings, right? People didn't know how to spell feelings until mid-90s, right? Like until grunge metal came out and people started feeling feelings. I watched a video the other day where this guy went to try to tell his dad he was depressed, and his dad told him, well, you think how about working 3 jobs to feed all of you kids? Like, go mow the lawn. You know, that's what we grew up in. And so some of us don't have skills and definitely the resources or the people to tell it to. And so that's what we're doing here. And I want to frame this email that we got. It's not really a letter. It was just an email that was sent to us, but it does kind of meet the criteria for what we do here. It's letter-ish, let's put it that way. Because this woman, I think, is kind of in a similar dilemma as some of our people. And we just want her to be able to process this here with us. And she just asked for opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I like that she didn't ask for advice. She just asked for our opinions.
She's like, she typed that email out really fast and like hit send
Yeah.
before I read it again or
Yeah,
before I chicken
exactly.
out. So thank you.
Yeah. So she said, let's get started.
Okay.
She says, hey guys, I will leave out my name. I am not really up for writing a full letter, so I will just send you a quick email to get your opinion. Also, maybe some of the listeners will be willing to share their opinions. So I love that. So some of you listeners, you can send your opinions to us at GracefortheUnlovable at
Yeah, that's a
gmail.com,
good idea. Yeah.
or you can leave them on our social media pages. I think probably either Facebook or Instagram. But more importantly, if you want to, leave DMs on those, if you don't want your opinion out there in the middle of
Yeah, I would like
social
that. That
media
would be
land,
cool.
we
We
will
get a
forward
couple.
them on to her. Okay. So she says, here's my dilemma. When I was 19, I became pregnant from a guy who was definitely the wrong guy for me and every other woman on earth. I love that. I hope I'm never known as that, right? I told him about the pregnancy and he told me to get an abortion and then disappeared. I decided to keep the baby and got well into my pregnancy before I started having doubts. I worked with an agency that helped me to find a good home for my daughter, so I gave her up for adoption. I honestly think it was the right decision for me, and I believe my daughter had a better life because of it. And I can appreciate that.
Oh, I think adoption is beautiful.
Beautiful thing, yeah. So she says, fast forward until I was 28. I met the man that is now my husband. He is a pretty religious guy, and he and I have had a lot of he and I had a lot of talks about our future before we got married. Of course, he knew I wasn't a virgin, but I can remember being worried that he would judge me if he knew I had a kid that I gave up for adoption. I can remember feeling like I had to be worthy of his love. Sounds crazy, I know, but that's how I felt. You say to put it all out there, so that's what I thought and felt. So she's basically saying, I'm putting it out here.
there.
That's what I thought and felt. We did get married and have 3 beautiful kids. I actually have a very good life. He has been the best husband a woman can have. My kids are awesome. I have a good life. Beautiful. Of course, there is always that little secret in the back of my mind. I can honestly tell you that no one close to me knows. My mother never even knew. I had a couple of friends that did, but we grew apart and I haven't seen them in years. It's a secret that most days I can ignore. However, every now and again it pops up. I try to push it aside and just move forward. This is a part where I love it and I hate it, right? Because she says, what triggered me was hearing one of your episodes where the lady was worried about the DNA results giving her secret away. I have wondered if my biological child will ever try and find me. If she does, I will have to tell the truth. I can look back now and see that I should have just said something. But as they say, too late now. What are your opinions? I am dying to know. Anonymous. Okay, Melissa, what do you think?
You go first on this one. No, actually, I
Let's
well,
be honest. Melissa's going to tell her just to keep the secret. I'm teasing
no,
you.
I always wondered. Well, when I was in high school, I was in high school with a girl, and she very religious parents. I mean, very strict, very involved in the church, like from her grandparents and all their relatives, and but she was so sheltered. And then when she finally started going out or like just going to dances and stuff like that, I think she was probably 17. So she ended up getting pregnant. And her parents made her go away to have the baby and made her give the baby up for adoption. She didn't want to give the baby up for adoption. And so I'm sure that feels differently when it's that kind of situation where you're forced to give it up versus it's something that you chose and you weighed all the pros and cons and that was a choice that you made. But I really was more concerned about the brother because the brother was left behind to deal with all of the teasing. Well, where's your sister? Well, we know where she's at. And then like
Mhm.
7 months later, she came back to school, and then, nothing was ever said about it. But it was just kind of like, that was a rumor, that was going around. So I don't know why I said that, but
No,
that
it
just
kind of
popped in
does
my head.
it makes you think because
It's-
this thing, this stigma, right, of being
mhm.
pregnant before you're married, because we're old.
Yeah.
There literally used to be schools where they would send pregnant ladies.
Hmm.
I'll
And that was
even
30, 40 years ago. I mean, that
I'll
was a
even be
long time ago.
vulnerable. My mother was pregnant with me in high school
Hmm.
and chose to keep me. Thank God. I appreciate that. But my mother, even to this day, if she'll get in a fight with her siblings, they'll crack off some comment
About the.
about her getting pregnant when she was young.
Hmm.
And so, it was the stigma then. So
Hmm.
it is a different thing than this letter, but it's really the same in terms of like the decisions a young woman has to make,
Hmm.
and then sometimes are made for her, right?
Hmm. Yeah. But I think if she was 19, and if she wasn't ready, I mean, I think adoption is a beautiful thing. Like I, my ex-husband and I thought about adoption, so I was open to that. I think it's a beautiful thing for people, that can't have kids and, really want kids. And if you want a better life for your child, but I'm sure it's a really hard decision, that people
Mhm.
have to make. And so now I'm wondering if she's just wondering if the DNA could come back
Or
to find her, or how would her husband feel about it?
I think kids
Like,
can, depending on how the adoption happened, I think kids can also request it. I don't know.
yeah, like, was
I've
it a
never dealt
closed?
with,
Yeah, I've never
but
dealt
if
with it.
not, the DNA does because that person enters their DNA into some database, and
Mm-hmm.
then some one of her siblings down the road, or one of her children, her other children, because she says she has three, they put
Mm-hmm.
their DNA in a database,
Yeah.
and they'll eventually figure it out.
And then
So
sometimes the adoption parents don't tell the kids that they were adopted.
very
They
true.
could go, not even knowing. And if she has a great life, then that was a great decision. But now I think maybe because of the DNA nowadays,
Yeah,
like
that
you said, that
whoever
it
invented
could.
that stuff needs to. I'm kidding. It's got pros and cons, and this
Hmm.
is one of the cons
I
for
mean, do you
sure.
think she's ready to share it with her husband? Maybe just with the husband. I don't think the kids may not need to know. I think the husband needs to know first, and then
I don't.
let them work on it.
I'm gonna say.
But to have her other kids know, that's too much on a person.
Well, it is what it is. I can speak from experience.
Mhm.
I'll be a little vulnerable here. So my mother had me as a teenager in high school, and then a couple years later, 4 years later, whatever, met a man and married him, and I have two half siblings
Mhm.
from that side of the family. And I can remember being, I think, 16,
Mhm.
16-ish, and we were having dinner one day, and part of the dinner conversation was, oh, by the way, um, my stepdad's other daughter is going to come over. And we were like,
Mhm.
what? Oh, yeah, well, that's how we found out.
Mhm.
And it was almost treated as if it was like no big deal. Now, for me, that's not my biological dad, and it was weird. My sister and brother, that
Mhm.
they now have a biological sibling
Mhm.
that is, by the way, my age, pretty close to my age. I think we're almost the same age.
But they have a relationship, right?
Now they
What they
do,
do, yeah.
but then they
But
didn't.
after, yeah, that would have been weird.
And
Who's coming to
so
dinner?
this young lady, I mean, we're not biological sisters, but we're, I consider her a sister
Mhm.
in a way, but her and my biological sister, who is her biological sister, are very close
Mhm.
and beautiful person. It could have been handled better, But in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
To not know you had it is, but that's our circumstance. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm kind of putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, everybody's circumstance is different. So you asked me if I think she's ready. I think she's ready to not have the secret anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's a lot of factors in play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a couple things I noticed. She said her husband's very religious, and I would imagine she's, a person of faith too,
Mm-hmm.
because they wouldn't have got married if it was that important to him.
Right, exactly.
But she may not be as religious. And let me break that word
It's
down.
like you and I. Yeah.
So Melissa is a very big person of faith, but she probably hasn't studied as much as me. Of course, I
Mm-hmm.
was a minister, for God's sake. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to know a little more than the average person, right? But in a lot of ways, Melissa might consider me more religious, but then
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that hates religion. So let's define the word.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think she's talking about is somebody who will approach everything religiously.
Yeah.
That is different than biblically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a
You're
story
right.
of a guy in the Bible. Let me give you a crazy example. See, people that hate the Bible,
There's so much good stuff in there.
there's crazy stuff in there. I mean, it's Jerry Springer on steroids if you really want to read it. There's a prophet in the Bible that God told him to marry a whore. Literally the word, unless you get newer translations, a
Mm-hmm.
whore. I mean, a literal, like, loose woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this dude used to have to go get her because she would just leave him and go like sell herself. And he would have to go like rescue her by paying off her
Suitors.
suitors,
Yeah.
Johns,
Mm-hmm.
or people that owned her.
Mm-hmm.
They had purchased her as their own personal prostitute,
Mm-hmm.
and he would have to go pay them. God told him to do that. Now, of course, it's as a metaphor for us to understand that Jesus is our groom and we're the bride of the church and
Mm-hmm.
we're all whores.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry if that offends religious people or non-religious people, because we are.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always, do what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So religion forgets that God has tons of heart for people in their
Yeah,
brokenness, in their
exactly.
sinfulness. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like sin, but he loves us. And so that's his
Mm-hmm.
arena that he works in. I love them so much, but they prostitute themselves to the ways of the world, but I'm going to go back and get them and
Mm-hmm.
rescue them.
Yep.
So a religious person, however, would say, well, I would, you should have never given that baby up for adoption, or whatever their religion would tell him. Or if his religion would have said, you should have kept that baby. Or his religion might say, you should never have married me if you kept that secret. Whatever his religion would be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know the guy. I'm not picking on the guy. Maybe he would be very understanding, and maybe after being married to her he softened, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she quoted in here, she's quoted in here as saying he's religious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her fear of his religion, because remember she said something like, I felt like I had to be worthy of
I know
him.
when I saw that, I was like, I was going to highlight it and ask you about that. Like,
So I don't know if she felt that way or if he came across that way.
mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, you want to know why I hate religion? I would never want to be somebody who I put myself so far above them Christianity wise that they
Mm-hmm.
felt like they're not worthy of me. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
clown.
Mm-hmm.
I've dropped the ball so many times. Like if I was on a professional football team, they would have cut me a long time ago. Like I would never want to be that. And maybe I've done that unintentionally, but man, I never
Mm-hmm.
would want to be that. So there is some level of her
About- yeah.
feeling like she had to meet a standard.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if she's ready to tell, but she was ready to tell us, right? She's ready
Mm-hmm.
to get it off her chest. Now, I mean, if you want to look at it like this, should she have been having a kid with what she quoted a guy that was the wrong guy for her and everybody
Everybody
else? No, but she knows that. So what? That's done. That's
Mhm.
over. Giving this kid up for adoption may have been the best thing for her and the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love that.
Oh
There's
yeah.
beauty in that.
Oh yeah.
And you said that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's done. I think her not telling him is the issue. Because she has a good marriage. She has a good kids. I bet you she's a great mom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what her life would have been without all those things.
Oh
But see,
yeah, exactly.
religion will
It's,
start to
mm-hmm.
pick her apart, and we're
Mm-hmm.
just not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion is this, because we don't give advice. My opinion is this. You shared it. How do you feel? The dilemma of the secret of not telling your husband something is a battle that you and God have to wrestle with.
Mm-hmm.
Why you share the secret out loud is so you could take the enemy out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You take the spiritual warfare out of the equation. God knows what you did. He forgave you for it the second you asked.
Mm-hmm.
He provided a way for you to get this child to a loving family,
Mm-hmm.
and provided redemption for you to go on to have a beautiful family of your own.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
enemy will come in and remind you of the secret. So
Mm-hmm.
here's my opinion. Okay. Anonymous writer, how do you talk to God? That's where I would focus.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, and I don't know you, but if you're somebody who goes like this with your secret, Heavenly Father, you know my secret. Lord, I humbly pray that you would find a way for one day for me to tell this amazing. If you pray like that, God bless you. That's not the God you need in this situation. The God you need in this situation would look like this. God, it's in my head again.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I cannot believe I didn't tell him. But you've always been there. Like you're there. Like, help get this enemy out of my head
Mm-hmm.
that's bringing me this shame.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that would happen is I have a child that I gave up that has a beautiful life, and I have treated my children better because of that. I have
Mm-hmm.
cherished them. I've cherished my husband. So the secret is one that is a mistake from the past, but since then I have been the wife that this man needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about this, God. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
shut up now and I'm going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not tell me today. So I'll make you a deal, God. And we shouldn't make God deals, but speak to me in a song.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm driving down the road and I'm hearing a song and you tell me to shut it off, I'm going to shut it off and listen in the silence.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell me if it's time now or not.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to tell me to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to tell me to run to him today and tell him. But I'm not going to do it until you are ready for me to do it and
Mm-hmm.
with me. And it's not
with
my
you.
own
That's
thing.
it. Yep.
And it's not my own guilt, my own shame, my own whatever, because you may not want it to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
And have that conversation. That's where God meets us for real. See, I think what a lot of people do is they get caught up in what they're supposed to look like in prayer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've told you, I've confessed this, getting up in front of a church, you have to kind of do that as a minister.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody bow your heads with me.
Mm-hmm.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful Sunday, because if you just walk up there and go, dude, there's a lot of people that need to hear this message. It's been burdening me all week. So I know you gave it to me. Give me the ability to say it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
and give me the boldness to say the things that I don't want to say because it's going to make some people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, dude. That's how I talk to God.
Yeah, me too. It's like,
the other day we have a person that we came in contact with who's having some spiritual battles. And I found myself just while I was at work, just going, what do you want me to do with this guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I know. We got to talk about that.
yeah. What do you want me to, what do you want me to say? You know, and it wasn't like, Heavenly Father, I know that the spiritual enemy of our very souls is out to hunt this man. You know, it wasn't like that. It was, how do
Just
you want,
talking
how do
to
you
it
want me to
like you
handle
talk
this,
to a
man?
friend, a respectful
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, like my
Respectable.
sincere friend, like
Mm-hmm.
the friend that I love more than even my wife, that I
Mm-hmm.
love more than even my children.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't love God above everybody else, my life
Mm-hmm.
starts falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
You can put your hierarchy together, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I talk to him, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I would just, that's my opinion, Anonymous. That's my opinion, is that make sure you're talking to him like that, and he'll tell you. And then, you know, he is also gentleman enough to let you kind of run from his voice a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's telling you to do it and you don't, he'll keep pushing you until you
Pushing you
do it.
to. Mm-hmm.
But, and it'll become uncomfortable in that way. But the shame won't be the problem. It'll just be the, you know, running from God until it's time. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
Bible's full of stories of people running from God for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Jonah, can you imagine Jonah? God tells him, go talk to these people in Nineveh and tell them about me. And Nineveh was an awful place.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, I don't want those people to get saved. I ain't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so God literally had to get him thrown off a ship, swallowed by a big fish, died probably,
Mm-hmm.
blown out onto the shore by this fish at Nineveh, come back to life. And some people say he wasn't dead. Some people say he was. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you get swallowed by a big fish, the stomach acids and stuff,
The
you'd think that he was dead, but you know, that's a
suffocation.
theological debate.
Right.
Yeah. But then he goes and preaches to Nineveh, and Nineveh's saved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he ran from God from that. Elijah ran from God because he caused a big old ruckus and was scared. Then he got depressed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he ran from God, and God told him to, you know, eat and take a nap,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll figure this out. You know, we all run from God,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes we're not running from God. The enemy is telling us that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Just get back in communion with him. People ask me all the time, as a grace preacher or somebody who preaches grace all the time, greasy grace, they call it, because they want us to call out sin. Don't you talk about sin? Don't you ever say anything about sin? And I say, here's the thing about sin. Once you've confessed it, it's done. God died for your sins 2,000 years ago. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about that all the time. So then why shouldn't I just keep sinning if I'm forgiven for everything? You know, that's,
Mm-hmm.
and if you doubt that this is a debate for the ages, that's what Paul talks about in his writings in
Mm-hmm.
Romans. Like, should I just sin because it's
Mm-hmm.
easy? You know, he literally has this conversation. When you sin, you pull yourself farther away from God. He's not farther away from you. You're just farther away
Mm-hmm.
from him. And people
Mm-hmm.
say, well, if he's always there, how could that be? Well, you're probably talking dimensional stuff, right? Like you're probably
Exactly.
talking like physics, and
Mm-hmm.
where he's always there, but your access to him, your relationship with him, your
Mm-hmm.
closeness to him is compromised, and you go farther and farther away.
Mm-hmm.
When people fall away into sin or backsliding, whatever you want to call it, you know, it isn't just a one-time decision.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
gradual thing. And then there's usually one big thing that, like when they say, you know, backslide, I think of a literal slide. You shouldn't have went to the top. You shouldn't have got to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So the going up the stairs
Up the
into the
stairs.
edge were the things you don't remember. You just remember what pushed you down the slide, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But God, like in the prodigal son, he's just waiting for you to come back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what I would tell you, Anonymous, is that you need to get with him about this. But you told it to us. You told it to a bunch of people. I would almost guarantee there's some relief in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, you know,
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
you can ask yourself what would happen if somebody found out. You know, I
You
get
can
that.
what if all day.
Yeah.
Like, and what if it?
I believe with a lot of our stories, there will be a time for this person to say something,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the first step of that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe also with some of our stories, there will never be a time,
Mm-hmm.
and you just got to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. I can tell you there's
Yeah.
secrets
Yeah.
that I have that there may never be an opportunity to even share, that I've had to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been times where, I had a secret and I was running from it and it caught up with me, and, I had to fall hard to the ground before I could get back up and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, get right again. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I will tell you something very funny as we go. Once upon a time, as a young knucklehead, which I was the knucklehead of knuckleheads, I said something horrible to this girl out of like humor, right? Like you,
Mm-hmm.
you take humor too far. And I saw the look on her face. It bothered me. And so I went up to her, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, whatever. She's like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was not cool. It's not who I am. She goes, it's all right. So I literally one day saw her probably 20 years later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is high school stuff, right? Just ran into her at a random Walmart in
Mm-hmm.
a town that I didn't even live in. And she looked at me and I looked at her, kind of went down this aisle. She went down this aisle and went back. And I said, do I know you? And she goes, I think I know you. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, are you so-and-so? She goes, yes. And I said, how you doing? Whatever. What are you doing? Whatever. And I said, hey, I just want to say again that the one time I said that, I said, you have no idea this, like, it's like one of those regrets you have, like,
Mm-hmm. Just reel it in. I can't take it. It's too
and
late.
she literally said to me, I am so sorry. I've been waiting for a break because I was just talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember your name. What's your name? And I was like, okay. And she goes, I honestly don't remember what you're talking about, but she said, do you feel good getting that off your chest? And that actually made me feel shame because I was like confessing this thing. She didn't even remember my name.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the enemy will do with your shame, right?
Yeah.
So I got a laugh out of it. And then now I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a possibility she was just lying and saying she didn't know me to make me feel bad. That was her way to
Mm-hmm.
get back with me. But I really don't think so. I really
Mm-hmm.
think that I was carrying something for 20 years that was nothing.
That was nothing. Yeah.
Now, am I saying this is it? No. But what I'm trying to get across is that sometimes it's not what you think it is. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way to get to that is to get clarity. You put it out there. The secrets are shared in safe spaces. Now they're not secrets. Now your mind is clear to make the best decision,
Mm-hmm.
not the emotional
Mm-hmm.
decision, not the
Right.
decision that
Yeah.
the enemy wants you to make, but the decision to benefit all,
Mm-hmm.
or at least benefit the most amount of people.
Right. Yeah.
So the secret of Adam and Eve in the garden hiding probably came from the enemy telling them, you better hide, you're naked.
Mm-hmm.
See, now you know stuff. So God is not going to be happy, so you better hide.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of them going, God, where are you? We just
Mm-hmm.
did it. You told us not to. See,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how
So it's-
powerful this stuff is. That's why
Mhm.
this podcast exists. So hopefully that makes sense. Anonymous, I hope we get a bunch of feedback from people
Mhm.
and we could share some of that with you. I will send it off to you via email, and
Mhm.
maybe we'll revisit this. As always, you can always kind of reach out to us and we'll keep helping you process this.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
we Melissa and I kind of started talking about this. We have a family that we tried to help, I would say,
Mhm.
what, year and a
About
half
a year
ago.
ago. Yeah, it's been a while.
And they've just recently reached out again, and they're kind of struggling at a deeper level now. And so we're revisiting it with them.
Mhm.
We actually have a call set up for Monday to kind of get a catch up and kind of figure out
Mhm.
how we can help, if we can help. And so if we'll do that for somebody from a year and a half ago, we'll definitely do that for you as well.
Yeah. Well, she got it out. Congratulations.
Yeah, for sure. So,
I mean, she sounds like a very mature
yeah,
person and like a loving lady. So, yeah, I
yeah.
think she's great.
I think you have to, let's say this, and hopefully people get this. There's a concept called a love bank not my favorite theoretical concept, this therapy concept, but I kind of get it. It sounds kind of lame, but I kind of get it. And what the concept says is when you love somebody, you have a love bank and you make deposits, and then one day you have to make a withdrawal. So hopefully there's enough currency in the love bank that if Anonymous has to tell him
right,
that she's not going to overdraft the love bank, right?
Yeah.
The account, right? Some of us, we don't make enough deposit, so when we have to make a withdrawal, it's just overdraft right away, right? So that's why when you have a relationship, any relationship, friendship, otherwise, make a lot of deposits, because by life standards, you're going to make a withdrawal or 2 or 10. And so the more deposits you make, the easier it is for the relationship to survive. And so I'll bet you've made enough deposits if and when that time comes. There's enough currency there for you guys to keep going.
Oh, very well.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So thank you so much for tuning in again. Don't forget that if you have a story of your own, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at GracefortheUnlovable@gmail.com. Remember, this program is written, hosted, and produced by us, Anthony and Melissa Corelli. This program is copyright The Struggle LLC. Shout out to Todd Kazinka with Todd K Voiceovers. To find out more about us, you could visit our website, thestruggleseries.com. And remember, healing comes when secrets are shared in safe spaces. So may God bless you and bring you peace.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grace for the Unlovable podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell a friend. We will see you next time.